We are continuing on with our NFL draft storylines, and on today's episode, the three teams that I'm going to discuss is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Denver Broncos, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. For Pittsburgh, is it a long shot for them to go out there and trade for Shedeur Sanders? For the Denver Broncos, how can they keep pace in the AFC West? And for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is Jahad Campbell the best first round prospect that they can choose for their team? Y'all know we're going to talk about it and break it down right after this.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back into another episode of NFL Central, your number one spot for everything NFL. I'm your host here, Bobby, and if you're tuned in with me today, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. I want to kick today's episode just kind of going a little different. We know that in this upcoming draft, the way that the order is that we got the Bucs picking at 19, the Broncos picking at 20, and the Pittsburgh Steelers picking at 21 in this year's upcoming draft. But I want to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers first, just because there's a lot of questions about if the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be able to trade up for a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders if he was to go out there and slide in this year's draft. You know that the Cleveland Browns have made certain moves that kind of signal that they're not going to be, leaning towards a quarterback, especially with recently signing Joe Flacco. Then you look at the New York Giants, who could have potentially taken Shedeur Sanders, going out there this offseason, signing a Jameis Winston and a Russell Wilson. And it kind of made sense from, both teams. I personally don't agree with what the Cleveland Browns are doing, but they still are paying Deshaun Watson a lot of money. So you got to go out there and make decisions that make sense for you. And that's more feasible than what that most of us believe that they should be trying to do. Same thing goes for the New York Giants. You have a GM and current head coach Brian Daboll just kind of in a tough position. So you understand that kind of logic right there, just to see if they can, further build out the team and make some things happen. But we'll see. But I want to talk about, is there a long shot, or do the Steelers really have a chance of getting Shedeur Sanders in this year's draft? I'm going to go out and say that the Pittsburgh Steelers, if you want to try to trade up for Shedeur Sanders, just get ready to use future capital to try to move up for Shedeur Sanders if he does fall. I don't personally think that the Pittsburgh Steelers will have a chance to go out there and draft Shedeur Sanders based off the new information that I found out of in regards to Derek Carr's shoulder injury, which signals to me if he does start to fall, the New Orleans Saints should absolutely be able to grab Shedeur Sanders at 9. Now, I could absolutely be wrong because we don't know how these things are going to go when it comes to this draft that's coming up, but anything can happen. But I do have a question for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are you willing to give up that future capital to go and get Shedeur Sanders? Because not only are you going to have to move up and give up that 21st overall pick in the first round, but you don't have a second round in this year's draft. So will you be willing to give up an additional first and another additional second of next year's draft just to move up for this young player? Or do you play your cards and say, hey, if he makes it past the Saints, we good where we are. Maybe he does fall to 21. It's going to be a tough decision for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially because you use some capital to go out there and trade for a DK Metcalf. And I do think that getting Shedeur Sanders in the building will be good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Don't get it twisted. But I think that it's going to be very, very difficult, or the Steelers are constantly sitting on bad ideas to try to think that they can just sit there and wait on the quarterback to come sign with them in Aaron Rodgers, or to hope that Shedeur Sanders is going to slide to them at the 21st slot in this year's draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers, to me, this offseason, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've been handling business all wrong in this regard. You sat there, you pretty much, in the season, you allowed your quarterback, two quarterbacks, to just pretty much walk out of your building. You didn't give Justin Fields an opportunity to see if he has anything that he can present you with, to the point to where he kind of felt disrespected and he was like, all right, to hell with y'all, I'm out of here. And rightfully so. Like, I understood that you wanted to allow Russell Wilson to go out there and see what he can do for the sake of the team, but let's call it what it is. Towards the end of the season, Russell Wilson was not that good, or it wasn't that exciting to see Russell Wilson on that field like it was when he first came back from injury. You had an ample opportunity to say, hey, Justin Fields, we know that we've had you sitting and chilling. We understand that you started off the season 4-2 for us while we was waiting on Russell Wilson. Now here's another last 4 games to go out there and see if you can help our franchise. And if you would have done that, I believe you, the Pittsburgh Steelers, would have placed yourself in a better position to hold on to that young quarterback in Justin Fields, but then still also go out and draft another guy. I believe you screwed that up in that regard. You waited too long. Now you don't have a Russell Wilson in the building. You didn't go out there and acquire anybody else, and you're sitting here telling Pittsburgh Steelers fan that you are okay with Mason Rudolph? How many more people on your team how many more of the good pieces and players on your team have to come out and say, we are in urgency mode? We want to win games. Because like I keep telling everybody, I understand the moniker that you are holding on to say, we never had a losing season. How long do you think that's going to sit there and stand well with those guys in the locker room who keep having winning seasons but keep getting stumped in the first round? It's not good. And now you're waiting on Aaron Rodgers, who seemed to be standing there in front of the Pittsburgh Steelers with 1 foot in and 1 foot out. And you don't really know what you want to do, at least from the outside looking in. They could very well have a plan mapped out for themselves, be looking at another quarterback just to draft, but then we somehow forget you still need another running back as well. There are some mock drafts that have the Pittsburgh Steelers going out there and selecting Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina, but will he be there? Will he be available to you? And if you do go and draft that running back, you still need support from the quarterback position. Is Aaron Rodgers going to give you that support? I'm not too confident in that. You shouldn't be either. Can he go out there and help you win some games? Absolutely. But if you end up in the first round again, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you lose in another first round of the playoffs, that's just not good for the sake of your team. And that conversation continues to heat up with Mike Tomlin. It's going to continue to heat up. So some of these decisions that they have made this offseason have been very questionable, to say the least, in my mind. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers need to get their stuff together, because you are in a weird spot of constantly having winning seasons, but nothing to show for it at the end of those seasons. But hey, now let's talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. My question for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is, how can the Buccaneers continue to keep their hold on the NFC South? Because they just won a division again. They seen some success with the in recent years with Baker Mayfield right there and Todd Bowles being the head coach. Last year, winning a division, going 10-7, and we know that they needed kind of like not necessarily an overhaul on the defensive side, but you need to do some retooling. And so far, they've done that. The Buccaneers this offseason had some major signings. They go out there and sign Hassan Reddick. They re-sign their linebacker Levante David. So what should the move be moving forward in this upcoming draft? Hey, if you asking me, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should absolutely go out there and see if he's available. You draft linebacker Jahad Campbell. That'll be one of the best moves that you can make as a unit. Or if a guy like Will Johnson out of Michigan falls to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you can absolutely go out there and get who I believe is the best cornerback in this draft. A guy that if the quarterback on the opposing team is throwing the ball and he think that he's going to be able to throw a quick out route, a quick hitch route, and if he makes a mistake, Will Johnson is going to pick that ball off and he's going the other way for 6. And I believe that young man is very, very capable. But we talk about Jahad Campbell, who I think is the absolute best fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last season in college, 117 total tackles, 5 sacks, 1 interception on his season. And I think that's good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Levante David is he's up there in age. He won't be able to stick around too long. So I think that you need to go out there and make some good additions for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers so you can stay competitive not only within your division, but also in the NFC. So I think that'll be a huge grab for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, before we get up out of here, I want to talk about the Denver Broncos. Last season, the Denver Broncos in the AFC West won 10 games, going 3-3 within their division. So the question for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is, how do you keep pace in the AFC West? You got the guys that's been running the show for the last decade in the Kansas City Chiefs. You got Jim Harbaugh and them Chargers looking like they ready to make some noise. You got Pete Carroll entering the division now, and you got head coach Sean Payton on your side, and you got a lot of expectations that you're placing on your young rookie quarterback in Bo Nix, who had an outstanding rookie season and was doing very, very well. And some of their offseason acquisitions that took place for the Denver Broncos, they went out there and got themselves a Dre Greenlaw. That's a hell of a move. They go out there and get safety Hufanga. That's a hell of a move. You go out there and you grab uh playmakers on your offensive side and Evan Ingram, that's a tight end, and then you pick up an additional wide receiver in Trent Sheffield. And I think those are very, very good moves. You know, these guys are going to be well coached, so you got to see what can they do in this draft to continue to push the envelope forward so you can go out there and compete within this division, because it's going to be a battle. You have 4 really, really good head coaches in this division. Now you need the talent to compete within this division. I know that I think last season, a lot of people around the NFL hyped up the NFC North, and they kind of felt a little disappointed with my Chicago Bears and stuff like that. But you did have, you know what I'm saying, the Lions show up, the Vikings show up, and the Packers show up. But I think this year's division right here in the AFC West could very well be the most challenging division in the NFL when you consider the head coaches with the talent and the way that teams are going to play each other. And we already know that the games within those divisions are extremely tough to win, regardless of how guys are matched up talent wise, because these teams, they know each other. They play each other twice a year. They play each other every single year twice. So they're going to know what Kansas City is going to do, what the Chargers are going to want to do, what Pete Carroll plans to do, things like that. But I would say that a perfect selection for the Denver Broncos would be wide receiver Luther Burden. Yeah, I think out of Missouri. I think that'll be a hell of a get for the Denver Broncos. Now we know that Cortland Sutton is there and he's a monster. Had a pretty decent season last year with over 1,000 yards, 81 receptions, and 8 touchdowns. I think Luther Burden comes in. He did have a down year last year in college. It was not really good. 61 receptions, 676 yards, and 6 touchdowns after he put up 86 receptions for 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns. But let's call it what it is. There's no really good quarterbacks that's going to be suiting up for Missouri. I mean, let's not fool ourselves. But I still think that Luther is one of those playmakers that could absolutely come in and help the Denver Broncos be more explosive on the offensive side. You already got a well thought out system that is conducive to winning for you and gives your young quarterback options to thrive in that system. So all you have to do is continue to build those pieces around him to help ensure that he has an ample opportunity to compete within the NFL. So that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of NFL Central. Go ahead and leave your feedback, comments, and concerns down in the comment box for me today. Let's talk about it. Those are the 3 teams that we discussed today: the Tampa Bay Bucs, the Denver Broncos, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me know how y'all feeling about all things discussed today. But that is it for me, y'all. I appreciate y'all, and y'all already know I'm going to catch y'all on the next for sure.